Chapter and Pipeman on W4CY Radio.
She climbs into bed, she pulls the covers overhead, and she turns a little radio.
This is the Pipeman here on the Adventures of Pipeman W4CY Radio, and I'm very excited about our next guest, and we have some killer news we're going to talk about. So let's welcome to the show Gil from Triumph. How are you?
Hey, Dean, nice to be here.
Hey, nice to have you. You know, you guys are kicking off your first tour in 30 years. You're going to headline the 23rd Annual Celebration Exotic Car Festival. And it's to benefit Make-A-Wish, which is personal to me, which we'll talk about. But the last time I saw your band live was at the 1983 US Festival.
Wow, you were there.
I was there.
Cool.
I mean, I'm so glad that I was there. What an experience, too. I think I was like 16, and I just told my dad, I'm like, see you later. I'm leaving for the weekend.
And you survived it.
Oh, man, I drove me and three of my friends there, and it is funny that you should say survived because it was definitely an experience. First of all, in the morning, waiting there as the cattle call as we all ran to the front. And then at the end of the night, it took me like 9 hours to find my car after it was over.
Oh, my God. I believe it. I mean, it was like a city, wasn't it?
Oh my God. It like to this day, it's one of my favorite experiences. I've gotten like thousands of shows, but it was just so epic. And especially the day you guys played on 300,000 people. And like, I couldn't imagine being on stage for that and see like there's no end to the crowd.
There was no end. Honestly, like when you looked out from the stage, you know, you kind of go to the front of house consoles and stuff. And then you go to the delay towers, that are actually behind front of house. And then it looks like, an amphitheater that kind of just goes into outer space.
Right.
Back to the mountains and then into the sky. Like it's just kind of crazy. But
it was wild. And you guys, man, you killed it. And it's like funny. I have a good question for you. If they had another heavy metal day festival at today, do you think Triumph would be on that bill?
Well, it's a good question because now we've got the band back together and into a performing entity, and we're going to tour. So anything's kind of possible now. If you'd asked me that a year ago, I would have said not a chance. But the way this all came together was a lot of kind of fun circumstances, and it, it's like golf. Sometimes you hit it in the woods, it bounces back in the fairway. Sometimes you get the opposite result. It was kind of wild how this came together, but it's become a really fun thing that I never anticipated was going to happen again in my life. But I got to say, my kids were so enthused by this whole thing. It's like, how do you say no to your kids?
That's pretty cool. See, I think that's what's different about today. Because I think back in the 80s, your kids at this age would be like, come on, Dad. Okay, like, leave that in the past.
Oh, yeah. No, it's like all my kids want to come on the tour. It's wild. Even my eldest daughter's bringing my granddaughter and my son-in-law. They're driving like literally, I think 2/3 of the tour, maybe 3/4 of the tour. My younger daughter is coming out and doing all our social media from from backstage, from the tour bus, the whole ball of wax. Looks like my son's going to come and work the stage and be one of the drum techs. It's a family affair, right?
That's so cool. Especially because that's what I do love about music today is there's like no line between the generations, It's like I go on tour and I do radio coverage at music festivals all over the US, UK, and Europe. And I bring my grandkids sometimes to help me do interviews, and I bring my kids and and it's like really cool because if my dad ever invited me to go to a festival with him, I would have been, no thanks. It's a great time for music, and what a great time to kick this off. Now, what's the story behind how it all led to this?
Oh my God. Well, it's a bouncing ball, and I'll try to make it not too long, but it really is hard to explain. It starts with, our lighting director and I, we had talked, we were getting so many requests, or I guess just social media being what it is, communications, let's just say, from fans that some of them are extremely heart-wrenching, and just kind of pleading, well, you guys, please tour one more time before I've gone. Please tour one more time. And, so with that in mind, and I had no intention of touring because I got a lot going on, that other interests that I have up here and things I'm doing. And I thought, okay, maybe we can do this in a virtual format, let's call it. So Paul Dexter and I, our lighting director, he did Ronnie James Dio's hologram from After Sabbath, and he did Frank Zappa's as well. And he says, well, come out and see Frank and see what you think. So I went out. I said, no, it's not going to work for a rock band. I've said, it's a great hologram, but I said, no, that's not where it's at. So we went down this path that's lasted like until where we're at right now, looking at mixed reality as a concept. But as that was happening, and Paul and I were doing that in the background, the documentary came along, and then the feedback from the fans about the documentary was overwhelming. Then after the documentary, our record label, they put their hand up and they said, oh, we got to do a tribute album. If you guys aren't going to tour, then we got to do a tribute album. So we went, okay, how are you going to do that? Well, they hire Mike Clank, the best producer in rock in the world. And he does an unbelievable job during COVID, putting this together with the best voices and the best guitarists and the best drummers and so on in rock from our era. The tribute album gets a ton of action when it comes out, and interest. And again, it kind of stokes the fire. We keep doing, Hall of Fame stuff that keeps the Metal Hall of Fame, the Songwriters Hall of Fame, all these things are happening. So it's all this, kind of going around us. And then the last thing that happened that really was what flipped it was up here in Canada in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Rogers Sportsnet, which is the big hockey broadcaster, national broadcaster, biggest media company in Canada, they decided, and the NHL decided, I guess, that Triumph was the hockey band because we had inspirational lyrics, right?
Nice.
And they decided to drive it home with Triumph songs on so many commercials and so many timeouts between plays and things like that. And then they finally topped it off by saying, would you come to the finals, like the Edmonton Panthers finals, and actually play? How do you say no to that? I mean, I was a hockey player as a kid. I didn't want to be a drummer. I wanted to be a left winger.
I love it.
Then you ask, we're kind of like, no, we're not going to do that. And of course, you ask your kids and they're going, oh, Dad, yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to do that. And so, I called Rick and I said, what do you think? And he goes, I don't know. And Mike was already doing Eddie Trunk, and he had an appointment in Toronto, so he couldn't come. So we called Phil, and then, Phil called Brent and Todd, and all of a sudden we had what we needed. So we go out there, and then the thing you can't explain, honestly, is the magic that just happens. Like when you get musicians together, sometimes it's like, no, this is not working. Other times you get musicians together and you go, it's like getting the right chefs in the kitchen, and suddenly, right, you're chefing up the food, and it's all. That's what happened. It just was that kind of magic of getting together. And Live Nation could see this happening right before the rise. So they just all of a sudden were like, let's tour, boys, let's tour. Like they were, insistent. And of course, like I said, then our families ganged up on us. And it's like, all of a sudden we said, okay, let's make it into a thing. So back in the gym, back on the drum kit, back rehearsing vocals, let's do it. And it's been a ton of fun. That's all I can say.
That's the key.
By game time, we're going to be ready, so I'm not worried about anything.
Well, that's the magic power of Triumph right there. But the fun part, that's the part right there, because it's like, in this business, if you're not having fun, why do it? Like that's part of being in this industry and being an artist, is having fun.
I
you
think
know?
you're so right, and I think you're lucky to have spent your life in music. I'm lucky to have spent my life in music, and especially today when you see all the stuff that's going on in the world, and you look at music and you go, man, oh man, there's one thing you can point to that does a lot of good and brings people together, and should always be there to make people laugh, clap, dance, shout, all of that, just having a blast. That should be what music's about, or moving them emotionally and taking
Yeah.
them to a good place,
Absolutely. And I've said for a while now, with all the stuff going on in the world, what we need is one big music festival for the whole world, and they're all required to attend. And then we'll work out all our problems, because that's where we truly unite and get some therapy and work things out. Live music is, like, to me, the ultimate healer for all of us.
That was my friend Steve Wozniak, my dear friend Steve Wozniak. That was his goal. And that wasn't widely publicized. When he called it the US Festival, some people thought it was the US Festival. And the concept, because I got to know Steve really well and we're still good friends, but us for him was exactly what you just said. It was bringing us together.
Mm-hmm.
He had a whole idea about satellite broadcast. He was so far ahead of his time to get it around the world, to bring everyone kind of into it in a virtual sense. He was so far ahead of everyone else. He still is ahead of everybody else, but a fantastic idea. And, to this day, like, for my personal passion project up here in Canada, I started a charity called Sounds Unite Canada, which is about free music education and music wellness for young people. And
man.
Yeah, and to give kids access, because we're seeing the two things, in my humble opinion, the two things kids need most: sports and music in school.
Yes.
They're so important, right? In not just for the physical side of it, the cognitive development, learning how to work with people and communicate, the whole thing. And seeing the boards of education like cut back in those areas, like, I think it's terrible. It's very unfortunate. So we built Sounds Unite as a way to be, not to replace public education, but as an adjunct for music teachers who we support. We work with the Coalition for Music Education up here in Canada, which represents 1,700 music teachers across the country.
Wow.
To try to promote music in the schools. And Sounds Unite has a wellness app as well that helps people use music as a therapeutic tool. So very excited about that.
I love that, because as here in the US, we're trying to get rid of the arts. I love that you're doing something to keep it, because I think every child needs, like you said, both sports and the arts. And, like, that's also what keeps them out of trouble and when they're young or teenagers, and because you have to have something to do.
Well,
and
you have to learn too. And sports is learning, right? If it's a physical sport like football or something, or hockey, it's physical, but you're learning these skills, right? So that's working a part of your noggin up here that otherwise potentially going to be idle. And it's the same thing. Like, I have a friend up here who's one of the chief scientists at a dementia hospital here in Canada, and she took up drums. And when we met, and I said, "Well, why did you take up drums?" And I started with all my drummer's jokes, but seriously, she said, "Gil, it fires more neural pathways than other instruments." So, and I thought about that for a while, and then I thought about, this is part of my learning process now when I'm approaching drums again. I want to learn like a kid. I don't want to be Gil Moore figuring out what I did. I want to be Gil Moore, the kid who's taken his first lesson.
I love it.
Realizing that, we're given this gift from a mother's heartbeat when we're in the womb, and we hear that thump that helps us, right? That gives us the ability to, let's say, sleep or develop. That's the very first rhythm that we hear in our lives. And we carry rhythms with us. All of us. We can dance. Animals can't dance, only humans. So, I guess it gets a little obtuse, some of these concepts, but I really do believe that the rhythm that we find in music is integral to people feeling a sense of wellness. I can't imagine a wedding and a DJ going, well, get up and dance with no music instead of
Right.
playing Kool in the Gang. You know, you need Kool in the Gang. So,
I know, right? And listen, what's the most famous words? Music soothes the savage beast. Like that says it all right there, you know? And yeah, that's how do people reach out to your cause and help and, you know, become a part of it?
Just go to soundsunite.com. And it's just like it spells just like it sounds unite. And yeah, we're hoping it's in Canada right now, but we're hoping to get a partner in the States and launch in America as well. So it's a passion project for me. So I'll be pushing it.
I love it. And I love what you said about playing the drums because, okay, so when I was a kid, I played the drums for 9 years. I sucked, but it, you know, I think it was something great then. It's a great memory. But even now, like last year, I was doing media coverage on Shiprocked, and they had these electronic drums there. And at first I was like, those look like practice pads. And that's why I stopped playing drums, because I hated playing those practice pads. But then I got on it. I put the headphones on. I'm like, holy shit, this is cool. I want to buy one of these, put them in my place. I can sit there and put these headphones on and no neighbors will complain, and I could bang the hell out of it and learn how to play again.
You know, Dean, everyone sucks when they start. I mean, that's
right.
That's the thing, right? Everyone sucks. You know, the first time you ever step on the ice to play hockey, you know, your ankles fold in. You know, it's no different. As soon as you pick up drumsticks, you hit them a few times. Oh, that sounds fun, but I don't know what to do. So, you know, that's where education, you know, kicks in. I listened to an interview the other day that I don't know when Ringo recorded it, but, you know, somebody said to him, when did you learn to play drums? He says, well, I never learned.
I think I heard that.
Yeah. And I'm like, it really struck a chord with me, because I'm like, okay, well, I copied you and you never learned. So what does that say about me? And I realized that, you know, education with technology, we've passed through this, you know, kind of a golden era of sharing, let's call it. You know, and it's got its bad sides, and what AI is doing now, like copying stuff, forgetting all that, just holding that over here for a second. Let's talk about the good things. So the information on, for example, you had 9 years in, and you said, I suck. Well, it's because you didn't have the help that you needed to say, hey, here's what I need you to do now, and go work on this, and then come back to me when you're finished.
Yeah.
And give that building blocks, because education, right? Like that pedagogical ladder that everyone needs to learn anything, whether it's drums or mathematics, it needs to be there. And when we started in music, we didn't have that. So you're kind of just emulating things that you think you're seeing or hearing versus actually learning a technique, and from which you can develop your own style and so on. So now that information is shared broadly. So the younger, the guitarists and the drummers and the vocalists and so on that are coming up now, so many of them are so phenomenally advanced. And I really think it's because they're students of the game.
Well, that no better words could be said, because I feel that about everything, you know, music, sports, whatever you do, you know. And I love when you're talking about hockey, because hockey and music are two of my favorite things. And I live in Florida, and I was rooting for Edmonton, just saying.
Really?
Yes. Well, I'm an old school Devils fan from when Jacques Lemaire was the coach, you know, so it's like, it was funny. I remember I lived in Jersey. I went up to Montreal one time, and I was wearing my Devils ski jacket, and everybody was giving me all these compliments. Where in Jersey, it was more like, Devils suck, Rangers, Islanders, Flyers, blah, blah, blah. And I had to go out of my country to Canada to be respected for wearing a Devils jacket because of Jacques Lemaire. So I am and Canadians, like, listen, they are the hockey players, though. So I just think of the great one, and I think of the Oilers. I don't think of him as the Kings or the Rangers. I think of him as the Oilers, and I don't know having a hockey champion in an 89-degree weather is weird to me.
Well, I can't say I disagree with you on that. You know, I mean, it was the 16-man NHL, of course, at one time, and but things change over time, and you know, it's a heck of a great sport, and you know, back to, you know, kids need access to it. I just can't believe how expensive it is now, and I'm like,
my God.
There shouldn't be a barrier. Like, just like I'm saying, why with Sounds United, we wanted to say there shouldn't be a barrier to entry to be.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Or to benefit from the cognitive side of it, or to benefit from the, I'll call it the you know, the medicinal side of it. Really, the feelings of wellness that you can derive from certain types of sounds and music and so on. Well, it's the same thing with sports. Why would you deny a young person access to all sports? Like,
right?
Yeah.
I coached both roller hockey and ice hockey for my son. And like, I don't even know how most parents do it, because it was super expensive to have him in hockey, man. You know, and it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be super expensive to get your kids into productive things that make them, you know, learn things and be productive instead of out there doing dumb shit. I mean,
just as a community, right? We need to embrace what it is that's the great fertilizer for those young people, to let them grow and be healthy. And, you know, I think that's the role of adults in society. I really do. I think that our role is to be teachers, not in the formal sense of the word, but on a sort of a mentoring level. Try to make people a little bit better. I don't mean to get all, you know, mamsy-pamsy on you here, but, you know, I mean it about kids.
It's all good.
Leg up.
Kids are the future, which is why, too, I love that you're headlining this festival, because it benefits Make-A-Wish, another great, you know, charity that is close to my heart, because one of my daughters actually got a Make-A-Wish, and they are the most incredible organization. I can't say enough good things about them.
I couldn't agree with you more. Make-A-Wish is one of those, I've been actually researching it a little bit and finding out how, you know, actually a state trooper in Arizona, you know, started this many, many years ago. And the Make-A-Wish people in Florida are a phenomenal group, doing phenomenal work and helping kids that really need it most. And, you know, we couldn't be more thrilled, honestly, to help with that fundraising. And we're going to do everything we can to help them knock it out of the park in Orlando and down in Fort Lauderdale or Hollywood as well. And what a great organization. What a great mission.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. April 10th, you'll be at the Hard Rock Live in Orlando. And the, you know, the whole Exotic Car Charity event is from April 10th to the 14th. It's in its 23rd year. And looking forward to your first tour in 30 years. You got so much going on. It's absolutely amazing. I love it. And, you know, thank you for giving us some magic power once again.
Well, thanks for having me on, Dean. It's been a blast.
Hey, thanks for being on the Adventures of Pipeman.
Hi, this is Gil Moore from Triumph, and you're listening to the Pipeman on W4CY Radio.
Thank you for listening to the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY Radio.